Welcome today to Setting Up and Running Payroll with Community Matters. And I will pass you over to John Wilson, our presenter for the day. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Helen. So good afternoon, everybody. Nice to be back here again. Obviously, we're going to talk about payroll, not the most scintillating of subjects. However, I think it's quite an important one. So let's just share the screen. Right. And Sarah, can you see my slide?
Yes, I can.
Terrific, thank you. I really don't want to get underway and discover nobody can see what I'm talking about. So we're going to look at both getting somebody else to run your payroll and what you'll need to provide them with, but also all the mechanisms for actually setting up and running your own. So if we start with, if you're going to use somebody else to run your payroll, if you decide you don't want to do it yourself, a couple of decisions to make. You need to decide if you want somebody to do what's called a full payroll service. That means they will do everything. They will take the information from you. They'll provide the pay slips to the people who are employees. And you would transfer an amount of money every month to that company, and they will do the payments to the employees. Or you might opt just for a pay slip service. So that is the other agency. They will do all the calculations for you. They will provide all of the pay slips, but you would actually pay those employees yourself. Usually pay slip service is cheaper, but it's a choice to make. You will need to keep details of the hours worked by your employees. And obviously, you'll need to record all of those payments, both to the employee and HMRC. They will need to sit in your accounts. And the thing to remember is it will be your responsibility to ensure that staff are aware that data is being collected and stored for the purpose of paying them and potentially paying their pension if they earn enough to cover that. Think about it. You need to ensure that anybody you contract to do this piece of work, that you have a basic agreement with them about data security and privacy. So, that's one side. But the point to always remember is that payroll provider is acting as your agent. If things go wrong, it's your fault. If things go wrong with HMRC, it's your fault. You can't pass that back off. The payroll information that's being inputted should be destroyed once it's been entered. So that's part of your agreement with that provider into whatever system that company, that individual uses. And actually, the other thing to consider is sometimes the software license might actually technically belong to you. So actually the data being held is still your data. It's just being stored somewhere else. So those are the things to think about if you decide to contract that whole thing out. So if you're feeling adventurous, it might be that you want to do it yourself. Not a bad way to go. It's not overly difficult, but there are a number of things to consider or to deal with on the way through. First of all, you need to register your forum with HMRC as an employer. So if you go to the web address here, and the slide will be sent out later, so you can go and have a look at this. And it's a simple survey around should you register your payroll? I would say in most cases the answer will be yes. Thing to remember is that should your forum be a CIC, you would choose the company option as you go through this survey. Everybody else would choose the other option. At the end of that, it will take you to a form where you sign up your payroll, and you will need a government gateway ID to do this. If you don't have one, don't panic, because you can create one at that point before you start filling in the form. You might be asked for something called a UTR, which is a universal tax reference, I believe, number. Don't panic. Anything that comes to you from HMRC will eventually have that on. Doesn't always ask for it. If you're a CIC, you will have to provide the details of the directors. Very simple to fill in, gets everything set up. HMRC will then issue a payroll number, and that will be the identifier for the payroll at your forum. So think about what you need to collect from those people who are employees. Quite a bit of information, but again, HMRC, bless them, have a really handy checklist form that you can download from their website. Yeah, this is the web address for it. And that will have everything on it. And in actual fact, even if you are contracting your payroll out, it's probably not a bad idea to use this form anyway. Your employee or employees will need to provide their name, address, date of birth, national insurance number, and you need to put in the start date, so the point they're going to start working for you on this payroll. And then that employee needs to tick a box regarding a number of options about other income. So do they work somewhere else? Maybe they receive benefits, maybe they receive pension. All that goes in there. And this is used to generate, further down the line, their tax code. So HMRC will look at the detail that you've provided or the other provider has provided, and we'll look at their tax record and we'll generate a tax code. Usually at the very beginning, for the first thing, you'd usually give everybody a standard tax code, and then it would be adjusted usually in the second month. Privacy notice. Well, it's pretty good to tell those employees that you're collecting all this information from them. Yeah, you'll need to tell them what you're going to collect, how you're going to use it, how you're going to store it. To be honest, this should be part of your data protection policy. But the thing to always remember as everybody gets tied up with GDPR is you have a contractual right to gather this information. It's really simple. If they want to be paid, they have to give you this. Yeah, they can't say no. Well, they can, but you won't pay them if they don't give it to you. So yeah, things to always remember. But I think it's worth thinking about, how are you going to store this information? Should be probably thinking about, make sure that your payroll software is password protected. Make sure that, maybe your computer is password protected. Consider if you've got paper records about the amount of time somebody's been working, their timesheets, if you use those, those should be locked away somewhere. Consider all those things at this stage, much easier than waiting until you have a problem. So the record keeping. So you're going to need to keep records of the employee's gross pay. So that is total value of what they are being paid before any deductions are made. You need to keep records of their national insurance contributions if they are earning enough to pay national insurance. In the same way, you keep records of the amount of tax you deduct if they earn enough for you to deduct tax. And also student loan deductions. This might come into play. Tax code. Their tax code, this is how much allowance they get. And then any statutory payments like statutory sick pay, which they're entitled to, maternity, paternity, or adoption pay. If you pay any of those, you need to keep a record of it. And details of any taxable benefits and expenses. The easiest way to explain this would be, if you pay an employee to travel to meetings, for example, and you decide that the 45 pence a mile that HMRC recommend is not enough, you want to pay them 65 pence a mile, that's absolutely fine, but you will need to keep a record of how many of those extra 20 pences you pay, because that is taxable, and you will have to deduct tax for that from them. And if you're using software, and to be honest, you have to use computer software now to do payroll, it should keep track of all of these details all the way through. But the thing to always remember is to make sure you take regular backups in case you have an issue partway through the year. I will tell you now, you really do not want to be 6-7 months into the year and find that your computer died and you actually have to reconstruct all of your payroll so that you've got all the proper records still. It's a lot of work. So what will HMRC require from you? So as an employer running payroll, you need to report an employee's pay and any payroll benefits and deductions in something called a full payment submission, or it's usually abbreviated to FPS, on or before the payday. So whenever you decide to do pay, whether it's the middle of the month, end of the month, weekly, your choice, unless there's a real exception and you have to explain why you're providing the information late to HMRC. You also need to send an employer payment summary, abbreviated to EPS, by the 19th of the following tax month, so that HMRC can apply any reduction. So, for example, statutory pay, and it looks at what you actually owe HMRC. You have an option as a small organisation. You can pay any deductions, so tax, national insurance, all those sorts of things to HMRC. You can either pay it monthly, or you can decide that you will pay it quarterly. So HMRC will keep a running tally of how much you owe them. And again, as we said, if you're using software for the payroll, you have to use software. It should do all of this for you. It should automatically send it. This is why they made everybody use computerized payroll software, because of the sending of these FPS reports and EPS reports to HMRC every month. But you do need to send them every month. Even if there is nothing to pay, you need to make sure that at least the EPS report has gone, so that HMRC know that you're operating properly and everything is up to date. The next bit that trips people up is you are required to provide a payslip to all of your employees. Payslips will be used by those employees as proof of their earnings, any tax paid, and any pension contributions. So that payslip has to show the individual's earnings before and after any deductions. It needs to show the amount of any deductions, and that may change each time they're paid. So quite often, the tax and national insurance amounts might be different every month or every week, or however you do it. If the pay varies depending on the hours worked, so if somebody's working different hours in different months, then you probably need to show the number of hours they've worked. And if you, for some reason, decide that you need to take any fixed amount deductions, I mean, the example HMRC uses for a season ticket loan, and I'm not sure I can really see any deductions being taken in this way by a forum, but it might be that, if somebody wants to attend some training or something and it's not part of their job, so you deduct the money, they need to have something that shows what that deduction is, either as part of the payslip or as a separate written statement. And you would need, at the year end, you do a separate statement which shows everything they've earned in that year. And then also how much tax, national insurance, if any, has been paid by them. So, as we said, the deductions you make, realistically, the ones that you are likely to be making, tax, national insurance, and to be honest, I suspect in quite a lot of cases, the people who work for you will not actually be earning enough to pay either of those. Student loan repayments, again, it kicks in after somebody's earning more above a certain amount. And the same with pension schemes. There's a requirement to auto-enroll employees into a pension scheme once they're earning beyond, can't remember exactly how much it is, but it's around about sort of £10,000 a year. And you have to do that for them. Right. Different software. There is a vast amount of different software available, great number of different prices. There's something called 12 Pay that's available from Iris software. That's about £60 a year. If you don't have anybody on pension, you could use things like QuickBooks, another one that's available. It's an accounting software. You might have seen the adverts for them on the telly. There is a whole raft, but you need to make sure that they are approved and recognised by HMRC. And they have a list of all of the approved payroll software, so it's all been tested to make sure that it works properly in the way that HMRC want it to work. And there's a link there so you can go and check. You can also opt to use HMRC's own free payroll system. Now, no pictures of this because I actually couldn't go and set up a version of this without making a mess of our current payroll system we've got at the minute. However, you can download the basic PAYE tools from this web address, and it is really easy and simple to use. And there's a great guide produced by HMRC about how to use it. Very simple. You can have up to about 10 employees within this, and it's very, I don't want to say idiot proof because that's probably not true, but it is quite straightforward to use. And if you follow the guide, it's nice and simple. It sets it all up and off you go. And you will then generate your payroll month by month. But that's another option for you. Now, as always, the slides will be shared after the session today. So you can go and explore all of the links that I've put into it. And from there, we're going to go to, are there any questions? I suspect there will be.
There was an earlier question around the UTR. So somebody had registered, but they weren't asked for a UTR.
I wouldn't worry. If you weren't asked for it, don't worry about it. It's just that as I was playing around with HMRC's system, at one point it asked me for a UTR, and at another point it didn't. So I thought I'd better put it in, explain what it is, just so that you know what it is should it come up at any point.
And then Chris has kind of added that in their forum they use basic tools, and he says it's very friendly. So that's just a software tool. Yeah,
that will be exactly what we've just been talking about. That's HMRC's own free payroll system.
Okay.
Okay, if that's everything that's
there's a question from Matthew.
I'm muted inevitably. Sorry, it's Matthew from Ealing. Sorry if I just misheard, but you said using the basic PAYE tools is great if you've got up to, say, 10 people or so. We're thinking of, we will have a number of employees with fixed term contracts, but we would also have a number of employees on 0 hours contracts for example, parent reps that may occasionally or frequently attend meetings. So what happens there? Because I mean, I'm not. Yeah, it obviously with there on paper there would be many more employees. A large number of them would only actually be doing very few hours during the course of a year, let alone during the course of a week.
Okay, HMRC's free basic PAYE tools is limited to 10 or fewer employees. If you think you're going to have more than that, you're going to need another system, another payroll system to do that. And that will probably be a paid for system. As I say, if you use something like, I don't know the prices for all of them. 12 pay, if you don't have anybody with pension, is about £60 a year. You can have much more, a lot more staff running that. There's no restrictions on the number of staff you can have. If you use something like QuickBooks, then you pay an amount. I think it's about it's so much a month, and then £1 per employee per month. For their payroll system. If anybody wants to use something like QuickBooks, get in touch with me. It might be that we have an ability to find somebody who can give you a deal on the cost of that. And I can explore that a bit further. But I'm afraid, Matthew, if you're going to have more than 10 people, you're going to have to pay for it.
No, but just thanks for reminding me that a good Yorkshire person would know where to find a good deal. Thanks for that.
There's a few questions in the chat, John.
Okay.
The first one, how long do we have to keep records for? 7 years, ?
Yeah, it's the same as all your tax records. I usually tend to operate on, we keep it for as long as HMRC say we ought to keep it, and I keep it for a year longer just in case. And I'm going to be honest, I can't remember exactly how many years it is now without going and checking.
Okay, so, and if there's a question around, if the government offer the free software, why would we not use that?
It depends. I mean, if you only want to use software to do payroll, why wouldn't you use it? If you have less than 10 employees, if you have more than 10 employees, as Matthew's just been alluding to, but you have to use something else. If you have a lot of financial transactions going on and you decide that having some sort of, I'm going to say computerized bookkeeping would be good, then maybe you'd want to have something that did the two bits together. But if you're just doing payroll, no, why wouldn't you use it?
Okay. Another question. They're all coming in now, thick and fast.
Yeah.
So the person is asking if they already use HMRC linked to their gateway number to pay a child's carer, can they add another payroll account using that gateway number?
Why would you want to do that and not have a gateway number just for the forum? Because that would be way more useful should you at some point not be involved in the forum, and you wouldn't really want them using your gateway number.
Thank you.
Sorry, that was my question.
Yeah.
I thought the gateway numbers were only for individual people. I didn't realise organisations could have one.
I'm going to sit here and go and scratch my head. I would actually just go and do one for the organisation. It must be, because I've got more than one, because I've got one for my personal tax and I've got one tied to for our payroll with HMRC. So it's a government gateway for that.
Okay, that's great then. That's fine. Keep it separate.
Yeah, I like things separate. It means people
so
don't get confused.
Yeah.
There's another question around what are the risks and benefits of doing yourself versus a company?
Okay. The risks are, hopefully, if you employ somebody, they'll get all the calculations right. Obviously, if they get it wrong, you're still in the firing line, even though they would probably have some sort of insurance to cover any claim against them. And the benefits are you don't have to do it yourself if you get somebody else to do it. And for a lot of people, that is a real bonus. I do ours. I don't find it particularly onerous, but I'm used to doing finance work. Not everybody is. I think that's the key element to it. It's around how much work do you want yourself? Yeah.
Just kind of rolling my way. Do you want to take a? There's Fiona's had her hand up for a
Yeah,
while.
we'll take a question from Fiona and then go back to the chat.
Hi, I'm a bookkeeper anyway for my job, and I'd be worth making people aware if they use a cloud-based payroll software and they want to change companies, they don't retain records. So you have to make sure that you print out all your payroll records because they won't keep them for you and you can't do backups. So it's just to make people aware of that if they change payroll providers. You have to make sure that you take copies of all your payroll records before you, you stop using them.
Thanks, Fiona. That's a really good point. And I have to say, I know when I do every month, I run our payroll for Community Matters, and I always print 2 sets of pay slips, and we have one that goes to the individuals, and we keep 1 set that goes into our finance records, so that we have that paper copy. If we ever did have to, reconstitute it.
Yeah, I like hard copies of everything anyway.
Yeah, I absolutely get that, and I it's a really good point to make to people. You need to keep this running.
Are you reading questions?
Yeah, I'm busy trying to read it, and I don't fully understand one from Chris. From Chris Pryke. Is that you're using software already and you want to pass it on, or is that your
Sorry, it's not Chris Pryke, it's Julie Atkinson. We seem to have 2 of us with the same name on.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so one of my questions has been answered already by conversation that's been there, so I need to go and check whether I run payroll for my son and for the forum already. Yeah. We're looking to move that to somewhere else, to someone else within the team. Chris, who's on the call. So I wanted to know how easy it would be to change to somebody else, because it's very much pinned to me, my email, my name and everything. So I'm thinking,
okay, I would probably tend, if I was going to set up the payroll, I would probably set it up with an email at the organisation, so it's not a personal one. Makes it much easier to move around if you need to change whoever's running it. It shouldn't be that much of a job. It's all doable. You need to probably, depending if the HMRC notices come to your email, you would need to log into your account and change that, where they go.
great, good call to put it onto a generic one rather than having it as someone's name. Well, we'll do that. Thank you.
Terrific. Okay, thanks very much. Okay. Yes, you can use. Who's this? This is Claire, who's already using QuickBooks. Do you want to unmute yourself, Claire? Sorry, because I want to ask you a question.
There we go.
Terrific. Okay, are you using QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks on a computer?
I don't know. I don't use it.
Okay.
But the reason I was asked to attend this is because in a previous life I used Sage and I did HR and payroll and all that kind of thing, which we don't currently do. We currently pay somebody else to do our payroll, but they charge us about £500 a quarter. So obviously it's a lot of money. We feel it can be better spent than somebody doing it in-house. I think they use it online, but I couldn't definitely say.
If they have QuickBooks Online, Okay. There is a cost for payroll, and then it is £1 per employee per month. That is the
Right.
cost for doing it. And then obviously you physically have to do it. It is, I'm going to say it is fairly simple. We've just converted our payroll system partway through the year, actually. And we've just moved to QuickBooks. We've always used QuickBooks for our accounting, but we've just moved to the online version. So we've taken on the payroll with it at the same point. There are a few interesting bits in it, but it's fairly self-explanatory. I would, if you feel competent to run payroll, and I'm going to say you obviously do, I would absolutely go for it. And that's quite a significant saving you can make that way.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it when I used to do it, it was all through Sage, which was quite straightforward anyway. But we use QuickBooks for everything else, so it would follow that it just makes sense for us to use it for payroll as well and save that money.
Yeah, I'm going to be quite nasty here. QuickBooks, Sage is a wonderful tool, much beloved by accountants and understood only by accountants. QuickBooks is a little bit more intuitive. I always reckon that I could get somebody after 30 minutes turning out something real and proper reporting from it. So
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Somebody would still need to review timesheets and pass on how much somebody was owed. Yes, absolutely. Employers' liability insurance is mandatory. You must have it, and you will be required to have a minimum of I think it's 10 million. But to be really honest, you ought to have it anyway because you need employers' liability insurance, even if you only have volunteers. So that comes in. Okay, fine. Somebody's corrected me to 5 million. That's fine. I don't mind. I'm not sure what we've got. I think we've got 10, but it's fine. Okay, Matthew.
Yeah, sorry, John, you seem to infer then that you use QuickBooks for your day-to-day accounting and have then moved over to using payroll on it as well. So what of the software that's available for accounting, which integrate best with, I can imagine the answer, but which integrates best with payroll as well?
To be honest, any of the major accounting software packages will also have a linked payroll module for it. I know what I prefer to use, but that's just me. And I don't think it's fair to say not everybody else would agree with me. I think that's where I have to go with it. As you will have already noticed, I happen to like QuickBooks, but I know lots of other people who use Xero, who use Sage, as much as I hate it, but it's what you get used to.
Can I ask a supplementary question?
Yeah.
Do you use PCs or Macs?
Okay, up until the end of October, we ran QuickBooks purely as an accounting software package on a PC. I had it here at home.
Yeah.
We now run QuickBooks online. So frankly, it doesn't matter whether it's a PC or a Mac. QuickBooks are, because it's a better sales model for them, are discouraging people from having a copy they buy it and use forever. They would much rather charge you monthly.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
Okay. Other questions from anyone? Hey. Seem to have done quite well. We seem to have run out of questions, Sarah.
I know, it's very exciting. If there are no more questions.
I'm still on the line, John. I can always think of another 1,000 if you want.
The point I would make is that if anybody is considering that they wish to use QuickBooks, please come and talk to me. We know somebody who can get you a deal. Yeah. You know, I'm not touting it's not us, but we'll point you in the right direction.
Someone's just put that someone in the organisation would still need to review timesheets and advise how much gross pay is, would they?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it depends how you're paying people. If you're paying people salaried, then that's much easier. If you're paying people on an hourly base and it changes month on month, then yeah, somebody will need to do that. You know, they will be paid so much per hour. And if you're doing it yourself or you're sending it out, you would just say, I don't know, employee X has done 30 hours at £10.50 an hour, and they will then go away and calculate that. If somebody's only paying minimum wage and part-time hours, do I need to pay pension? Well, it depends how many hours a part-time you consider part-time hours. It works on the total amount that you're paying that individual before they have to be enrolled for pension. The figure is somewhere around about 14, basically 14 hours a week for 40 weeks a year. As long as you're not paying them £30 an hour, probably this will not be an issue. I think the value is somewhere around about the 10,000, yeah, £9,000-10,000 mark before you actually have to auto enroll them for pension. Okay.
It looks like that could well be definitely the last question. So if we've come to the end, then I just want to thank John and remind everybody that you can still send John your questions through the subscription that you have to Community Matters. And if you can't find out how to get in touch, then just contact your advisor and we'll help you out and put you in touch. So I just want to thank John hugely for your time today and your expertise. Thank everyone for joining. Take care, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks very much. Take care.